Hello, everybody who is listening to episode 2 of the Breakfast Pudding podcast, fan edition. Just for a bit of context, Stephen Battelle runs his own podcast called The Breakfast Pudding over on Patreon. It's been going for 5 years. It's amazing, and he shares all his stories from his songwriting to what he's been up to with the band. So initially, the idea was myself and Matteo, who did episode 1 with me, we got together to share our own memories and experiences and stories about the band from the last 20 years. Now, this was designed initially just to be a one-off celebration, as it is 20 years since Lost Alone became a band. But since we released the podcast episode, it's been really well received. And actually, there's been quite a lot of interest in other people, coming forward to do an episode, which is amazing because Matteo and I realised in our 1-hour session that there was so much more we could talk about. So to hear other people wanting to get involved and share their stories can only be a good thing. The more we talk about Lost Alone, the better. So for anyone listening who's sat, whether you're a fan who's been around since day one or you may have only heard them for one day, if you want to come and join me and talk all about the band, then please reach out. I would love to do more of these. So here we are on episode 2, and ever since I reached out to this person to see if she wanted to do a podcast episode, I have been mega excited to put this together. So I love already how this podcast has gone global. The first episode, we went to Germany, as that is where Matteo is from. And this episode, we're going all the way over to Brazil. Now, I know many of you will already know Camilla. She has been a super active and core member of the Lost Alone community for many, many years. And many of you will know her as the admin for all of the Lost Alone Brazil fan accounts. And so I'm delighted that she is accepted to do a podcast with me and share all her memories and stories about the band. I met her online in 2013 and we've been in touch ever since. So I'm sure you can appreciate coordinating time zones and things like that. So this podcast is being done a little bit differently. So Camilla has sent me loads of fun videos and she's edited it all together. So I'm going to put my stories in with her and I hope you enjoy what we're going to talk about. So just to get started, I would love to introduce Camilla to you, and she's going to share how she got into Lost Alone and where it all started for her.
Hello, my name is Camila. I'm from Rio, Brazil, South America. And my story with Lost Alone starts with the first contact in 2009 because they were the opening act for My Chemical Romance at the Roxy Theaters show. And I didn't listen to the first album much, but I think at that time I was like curious. I wasn't in that concert. I never lived Brazil. I never traveled to another country. I never lived in Brazil. So I'm poor. But I knew like every concert My Chemical Romance announced, I started to see the opening acts to new bands, like listen to new bands. I used to check what bands are opening for them and if they were cool. Then Lost Alone opening for them. But I think at that time I couldn't find it to listen to, like the record, Say No to the World. I vaguely remember seeing the video for Bloody Sharp, but I hadn't felt the impact yet. The impact came like 3 years later when Frank Iero from My Chemical Romance tweeted about the release of I'm Off in the City.
So I just wanted to jump in here and just share, I suppose from a fan perspective, how cool it is seeing your two favourite bands come together kind of online and hype each other up. My Chemical Romance and Lost Alone have shared so many cool experiences through the years. Lost Alone has supported My Chemical Romance on tour. Gerard Way was the executive producer for I'm a UFO in This City, which this podcast is quite nicely timed, as Lost Alone this week have been posting the 13th birthday of I'm a UFO in This City. So it's been having a bit of a birthday week. When Lost Alone announced they were back together in 2022, they did it by announcing a tour, or that they were supporting My Chemical Romance on their massive arena tours. Stephen filled in for Frank on the LS Dunes tour and recently went on stage to play with them in France. And it's just really cool to see, because for me, if it wasn't for My Chemical Romance, I probably wouldn't have got into Lost Alone as soon as I did. It was because I saw them supporting them in Manchester back in 2011. Cammy's just explained that if it wasn't for Frank's recommendation online, she may have not discovered them as soon as she did. So it's really neat to see how kind of the My Chemical Romance Lost Alone hype has continued, and just pulling out some tweets here of the various interactions that were kind of shared. And for someone who runs, a fan account for Lost Alone, whenever My Chemical Romance tweeted about Lost Alone and vice versa, it was always very cool to connect with other fan accounts, because everyone was just excited about this merge that was going on. That was always cool, and maybe in future they'll continue to do more. A really nice thing that I saw was when Frank sent Stephen a Lego set in the post. And a few of us have said that Frank and Stephen should do like a Lego live stream or something together, because that would just be so wholesome. And so I will hand back over to Cammy to kind of share what kind of song brought her in to the world of Lost Alone.
It was precisely the time that the first streaming service started operating here in Brazil. Like nowadays, this streaming is like the second most popular, I think. The famous one with the green logo. I don't know if I can say brands here, Becky. Are you being sponsored or something? Anyway, this one only started operating here in Brazil in 2014. I was keen to listen to new music. Like, since my impact with My Chemical Romance in 2006, I hadn't been truly excited, about any other band. So I was always looking for new things to listen to, like there's this expression, bookworm. I was a MySpace worm. Now, every time I say né, it's like in Portuguese. If I say né, you understand what is it? What is it? Like. I was a MySpace nerd at the time, and I decided to listen to Frank's recommendation, and it was the best thing I could do for myself. And since I didn't have the premium version of the streaming app, the CD started to play in random. And the first song that played was Orchestra of Breathing. And that intro, and I would say, like, with all the emotion that only your native language can express. Que coisa linda. Like, what a beautiful thing I was just putting on my ears. I was like, oh my God, look at that song. And I didn't listen to the rest of the album. I was impacted by Orchestra. I spent about 2 weeks just listening to Orchestra. Like, just that song on repeat on YouTube, because the premium streaming plan didn't allow repeats. Did not premium, actually. When I heard the rest of the album, I was shocked. The reaction was completely shocked. I was like, that made me about the gold digger. I found a really beautiful rock with orchestra and stopped digging. I was like, yeah, I have this jam. It's amazing. When I decided to go back to digging more, I was buried by a ton of diamonds and precious stones that this album held. Like, put pen to paper, like, Downside of Heaven, creatures. Oh my god, Love You With You Alive, girl. My holy family knows Love You With You Alive. Like, a few days ago, the spot, the green app, the green app played it on one of my playlists, and my cousin, who is now 20 years old, turned it to me like, I know the songs from some TV series. And I was like, girl, no, it's Lost Alone. And she was like, shocked to remember this song after so long. Like in 2012, she was a child, 10 years old, 9 years old, and she witnessed my obsession with this album, with this band. She started like humming the song. Oh my god, I love this song. I forgot about it. It was a hit. It was number one on the charts in my house. Like everyone knew Love You With You Alive. A big hit. Big hit.
So, as I just said a little bit earlier, last week, by the time this podcast is released, last week was the 13th birthday of I'm a UFO in this city. And it's just such an amazing album that deserves to be celebrated every single year. I'm hoping, like Lost Alone did with Shapes of Screams, there potentially is a time where they will play through the whole thing live. Because with Lost Alone especially, their albums feel like they should be listened to in order. There's a certain feel. It's almost like a story that gets told. And of course, you can just pick up a song and listen. But for me, for all the Lost Alone records, listening to it in full, in the order, just feels right. I hope that makes sense. So to hear the full album live, in order, would be incredible, just like how it was with Shapes of Screams. Now, I'm not sure I can pick a favourite song from I'm a UFO myself, but one of my favourite memories, and I think I posted it on Instagram not too long ago, was when I saw Lost Alone support The Darkness in 2013. As I was speaking to Matteo about this, it was the first time I'd seen them since MCR. I was right at the barrier for this one, and Do You Get What You Pray For was on the set list. And that's, an epic riff. It is a solid song to hear live anyway, so I was fully prepared and excited. And then during oh my goodness, my musical terms are not very good, the bridge, when Stephen comes into the crowd for the solo, I was just in absolute awe. I was like, how is it possible to feel more energy from a song than I already am? And Stephen was stood right next to me. Like, I'd not experienced anything like this with a band ever who had that audience interaction and just wanted you to sing loud. And I just remember screaming out the lyrics like the top of my lungs and just felt this whole new appreciation for the song. I was like, I can't believe this has happened. I was just so excited, and it really stuck with me. So every time I hear Do You Get What You Pray For, I just get transported back to that first time I heard it live properly, and I treasure that moment forever. I remember scrambling online after to see if there were any photos of like that bit, and there's so many, and I've put a few on there so you can see. So I would say, from a memory perspective, Do You Get What You Pray For is probably my favourite. The Downside of Heaven, The Upside of Hell, I've only ever heard that live once, and that was their, I quote, final show in 2014. So it's very emotional because whilst the set list was so good for that final show, it was so bittersweet because at the time we thought we wouldn't get any more shows. So I think Do You Get What You Pray For kind of overshadows that with a more positive memory. And interestingly, Say No to the World was also released this month. So it will be its 18th birthday this month. And then Shapes of Screams not too far away in April. So we really have a massive birthday kind of month, essentially, for 3 of the albums. And then a little bit of a break until the Roaring Twenties. So just going back to Camilla and I and our friendship and where we began. I found Camilla on Twitter back when it was a lovely place to be, and it was such a community feel back then, and you could actually, tweet something and have interactions rather than whatever it has become now. Anyway, I'll show you the first tweet on here that I did to Cami. She had posted a picture of the plushie she had made of Stephen and the Penetrator, and I think I was just like, oh my goodness, what, you made this kind of thing? And then I think our friendship just kind of blossomed from there. And I'll let Cami kind of explain a little bit more about our friendship and her friendship with other members of the Lost Alone community as well.
A year before, I think at the times of the release of Shapes of Screams, before it, we started your friendship, right, Becky? And it was so nostalgic and fun to and changing letters with you and the other girls. And I keep everything. Everything is still with me, of course. I keep everything with great affection. There were many emotional moments. You sent me magazines and set lists, and the set list is still framed on my room. Autographs, Christmas cards. I remember sending you some personalized guitar picks. It was so much fun. Amazing moments. Amazing moments. Friendship over the years, it's fantastic.
So I had never sent anything to Brazil ever in my life. So having kind of essentially a pen pal over there where we would send letters to each other, we would post little gifts to each other, was just so, so lovely. I know every time I grabbed maybe a set list or something and I asked the band to sign it and say, I'm going to post this over to Brazil, they were always so grateful, which is lovely. And, it got there. I don't think any post got lost, which was incredible. I still have my letters. Some of them are at my parents' actually, but there's a couple here that I have. And it was just such a joy to write. I mean, about 90% of our conversation was about Lost Alone, and then the other 10% was kind of just getting to know each other and forming, well, a beautiful friendship. And with that came a lot of fun with the band. So a lot of us were very online. We loved being online. We were very into our social medias. And, we wanted everybody else to hear about Lost Alone. We wanted the world to know about our favourite band. So with that, we tried to do our best to spread the word through tweeting at, magazines, radio stations, just spreading the word of the music, sending links to our friends. All of that went on because in our eyes they were the best band in the world. So, everyone needs to hear this. And it was very interesting hearing Cami's experience on actually promoting the band in Brazil. And I think you'll find the story actually very interesting.
About the campaigns to promote them here in Brazil, I need to contextualize this country is a pain to promote rock in general. Brazilian rock bands are, even today, more than before actually, are struggling to stay active. I would say that the last year the rock was still on the charts here was around 2008, I think. The genre became very unpopular. At that time, the main vehicle that promoted rock music here was old MTV. Like Brazilian MTV was very rock oriented, very different from the American one, for example. Many people even criticized the channel for not allowing regional and Brazilian rhythms to be heard. But all the other channels gave space to these genres, so I thought it was cool. I always thought it was cool that MTV was more focused on rock. But this MTV died in 2030. Central, the main MTV bought the rights to the channel and it became the MTV of reality shows that everyone knows. The old creative MTV died 2030. And rock has no place in Brazil. Like, no, never. Those who like it have to listen to and look for bands on their own. And the shows, the concerts are almost always in small venues. Some exceptions, like there's a band here called Fresno, they fill a house of like 5,000 people here in Rio de Janeiro. Fresno can do that. The other bands, just small venues. I wish Steven knew could meet the singer of Fresno because I think they're very similar. They have the same passion for music. And I think Dougie from McFly can do this bridge to this friendship to happen. Lucas and Steven, they need to be friends. McFly can do that bridge because Fresno has a song with McFly. It's a song called Broken by You. It's half English, half Portuguese, the song. And I think this friendship, like, it would be a dream of mine. Lucas and Steven work together. I need to put it there. I need to say this here. So back to 2012. Yeah. That said, promoting La Salon was a painstaking job. I had two friends, Camila with K. I am Camila with C. There's Camila with K and Danielle. And they helped me to promote the band by tweeting, like one by one, random people sharing the YouTube links, the La Salon YouTube links. And in one of those tweets, one of those interactions, two other people became interested in the band. It was Vanessa and Beatriz. Vanessa is from the state of Bahia and Beatriz was from Ceará. If rock was weak in Rio, in Bahia and Ceará, the genre is almost dead. Like, if you notice, even every time an artist come to Brazil of any genre, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift came here for the Eras Tour in Brazil. The shows were in São Paulo and Rio. Just in São Paulo and Rio. It was a success. She filled about 6 days of football stadiums, but only São Paulo and Rio. Like, the rest of Brazil barely listen to international songs in general. Like, and rock music, zero. Vanessa and Beatriz were exceptions, and they loved La Salon. I remember Vanessa was a huge Green Day fan, and she liked La Salon. And Beatriz she was amazing. She was like fan of a Brazilian artist, Anira. I don't know if you knew her. Like, Anira plays funk music, and Beatriz was like, "Yeah, La Salon is cool. I like them too." She didn't even listen to rock music, and she liked La Salon. She's amazing. And Beatriz also told me that in her state there was a regional MTV. Like, let's remember, Brazil is the size of a freaking planet. It's an intercontinental country. So each state has its own local TV broadcast, TV schedule, And in this case, it was a local station, an entire station just for Ceará. but the signal gets other station as well. But the main signal of the TV was for Ceará. But even so, we used the hashtag of the TV show, asking for, "Do you get what you pray for?" And girl, they played for more than one day. Lost Alone became a regular feature on a TV show that they showed subtitle music videos, and it was "You get what you pray for." I think the lyrics are very inspiring, and it talks about a lot of things that is relatable on about even Brazilian politics. And we chose this song to people knew the message. And because of this, Do You Get What You Pray For playing on the TV broadcast, another people start to follow Lost Alone Brazil, and we knew that they're from Ceará. They're from the this part of Brazil. So like it worked in a small way, but it worked. Like people was knowing about Lost Alone. I used to go do the search on Twitter, search for, this code on Twitter. There was like you put on the search. Now Elon Musk destroyed this. It didn't work too much nowadays. But at that time, we used to put like Lost Alone, then Lung, 2 dots, PT. Every mention of Lost Alone in Portuguese would appear here with this code. So I was always looking for this. And the tweets in Portuguese start to increase. Like it was starting to have more tweets about Lost Alone in Portuguese. So it worked. Like showing on Ceará worked. Some people was knowing Lost Alone. And in a national network level, we managed to do it with creators, also through Twitter, but this time by sending message to the TV director of the show. And this show has a kind of news format, but it wasn't focused on music, but inside it there was a segment about music. These two appearances in the Sierra and the national network are immortalized on YouTube. There was a third appearance on another station, a national network as well. It was like a MTV with less money. But unfortunately, this one I missed it. I was on work and my friends told me Lost Alone show it. They talk about Lost Alone, but nobody recorded it, unfortunately.
And in the UK, there was a lot of us who had a lot of fun spreading the word. For example, when Lost Alone released a new single or the new album was coming out, one of my favorite things to remember was there was a bunch of us queuing outside the Barfly venue in London on the 7th of April 2014, which was the Shapes of Screams album launch day. And we were all queuing, we were singing, we were genuinely really excited to, one, be at a Lost Alone show, and also that our favourite album had just been released. And I remember Stephen was tweeting wherever they were on the road, asking us to kind of share like the album with, Kerrang or whoever it was at the time, just to kind of get the word out. And of course we would share that. We were going to anyway. So that was cool, and I'm not the only one to say that Shapes of Screams is so painfully underrated, and it deserved so much more, praise and media attention. There's a few of us who could go on a big rant about it, but it's not the time. But it really did deserve so much more love across the world. But it was fun doing what we could do, and it's always kind of great to connect with people online who also had the same mission of sharing the word of Lost Alone. I know I'm missing a big chunk of Lost Alone promotion, but it's only because I haven't got the inside knowledge to share that much about it. And that is the Covert Agenda official Lost Alone street team. So I was not, I suppose, technically part of it, because I think by the time I had actually joined kind of the Lost Alone community, it maybe wasn't as active as it had been. So if anybody listening can share anything about the kind of campaigns you did, the promotion, the work you all did, I would love to know as well. I'm gutted I didn't get involved in with all the fun stuff that everyone got up to. I know it was huge. I know there was the forum, they had a website, they had their own Tumblr, they had everything. Yeah, if anyone can share some cool experience about that, please let me know. We could even do a whole podcast episode for that. But one of the ways that Cami and I used to express our love for Lost Alone and hope to spread the word was through Tumblr. Now, Tumblr still exists, but I logged onto it the other day and it is completely different to what it was 12 years ago or so. Tumblr at the time was an incredible place. It was very hot on the fandoms, so there was so much information and there was so much stuff on there for all different kind of fandoms, whether it was music, whether it was a TV show, whether it was a film. That would be the place that you could go if you were a fan of something. And the whole band were on Tumblr. I realized their accounts are still there as I was having a little scroll. I had done the Lost Alone fans Tumblr, and we did have a Battalions one. They kind of merged now. And Camilla had the Lost Alone Brazil Tumblr. I'm just showing you now just the amount of stuff that is on there that actually some of the stuff doesn't actually exist anywhere else, because, for example, we used to download the photo sets that got released after a gig and upload them to Tumblr so they were in one place. But you click on the photo set link and the link is sadly gone, but the photos are still preserved on Tumblr. So it's almost like a time capsule. For me, Lost Alone fans was 2013 to 2014, and then Battalions up to around 2017 was when Tumblr kind of, I suppose, stopped being what it was. Cami will share with you in a minute around her Tumblr experience and kind of what it meant to her. But as you can see, I'm just showing you some kind of screenshots now from what we did. There was so much artwork. I started to transcribe some interviews for fans whose English wasn't necessarily their first language. We did kind of photo challenges. It really opened up our creativity, and I don't think I've ever been skilled at kind of Photoshop and everything than I was back in 2014. I've been meaning to try and think of a way on how to kind of export all of the stuff on Tumblr, because my worry is if Tumblr ever gets shut down or we ever lose the accounts, that all that information and all those pictures and all those memories will go. So if anyone has any ideas on how I can preserve those, please let me know. But I will let Cami share her experience with Tumblr as well.
Oh my god, the Tumblr phase was a lot of fun. It was where I basically taught myself how to use Photoshop, like video editors to make GIFs, artistic GIFs. Like Lost Alone is so creative and inspires so much art. It was really cool to play with cool fonts and to highlight a brilliant phrase in a song through an edit. It was really a very creative phase for us. It was so much fun. Love it.
Now, one of the questions or the topics I asked Cami to talk about before recording was about all the plushies that she had made.
The plushies, I love it to making them. I love to sell. I still sell a bit, but I don't do blushes anymore. But I like to embroidery. I was learning how to embroider. And I love to make the plushes. My favorite, what I have some favorites like the Steven with the sparkling blue hair, and the Monster Uni jackets I made for you. The Penetrator, the Steven hold in the final show. It was, oh my god, I screamed so much. I screamed, like literally screaming. Oh my gosh, Steven with the Penetrator. And there was the plushie I made for Mark with the complete drum kit. How that got all the way to England without break, I have no idea. But it was a lot of work of my little plushies.
So, when it comes to the plushies, I got my inspiration for making them from Cami. I thought they were so cool, and I've continued to make them throughout. I've made a Christmas version. I think I made a Berlin Battelle version. Made the recent ones from the tour. You know, I wonder how many mini Stevens Steven owns. He might have his own army of plushies if he still keeps them. I really hope that they don't find it weird. We're doing it because it's creative, not to be weird. But again, it's just channeling that creativity and making something. And in the most recent show, for example, I'd made, oh my goodness, so many friendship bracelets with different Lost Alone songs on. And that was really nice because it was just nice to make them and to be creative and then spread some joy. That gig was, I know myself and Mateo talked about it quite a lot in episode 1, but it was just such an amazing atmosphere. And it was just such an amazing gig, easily in the top 3 Lost Alone shows ever. So it was nice to make something for everybody. So on episode 1, I asked Mateo to name his favourite song, which was the Star Chorus. Mine is Our Bodies Will Never Be Found. And so I gave Cami the really, really difficult job of talking about her favourite song from Lost Alone ever.
My favorite song by Lost Alone. Oh my god. There's a famous meme here in Brazil that says, it's like, I rather take a bullet than take a decision, something like that. I rather take a bullet than make a decision. Like, I'll tell you my favorite at the moment, but all time favorite I didn't have because everything is so amazing. I've been listening to this one a lot, and like it gives me goosebumps. I love imagining myself performing it in a very dramatic way. It will be Toy Ghosts, like such a bop, you know. I was just running away. Silence was my only escape. I love to perform it, like in my head. I perform like I'm Beyonce, you know. It's amazing. I love Toy Ghosts, but like every time I need to show Lost Alone to someone, I used to choose Standing on the Room of Unbeautiful Empire to show to people. I think it's the very giant song. Like a lot of people get in love with Lost Alone after listening to this one. So this is the song that is my favorite to show to people. But right now, my favorite for myself is Toy Ghosts.
And so we move forward all the way to 2022 when Lost Alone announced that they were back together and They were releasing a new record and they were touring again with My Chemical Romance. It was just a big ball of happiness that was going on in the world. Cami and I had kept in contact throughout, the break, and it was nice to check in with what we were doing. We were constantly reminiscing about the campaigns we used to do on Tumblr, and we really missed just having that creative outlet and just escaping from our life for a bit and getting together and creating something or, recording something. It was just really, really, really nice to talk about. And so when they're back together, it was like, oh my goodness, it's happening again. Maybe we can go back to what we did before. And it was such an exciting time. And with that, Cami had a really, really nice story, or she has a really nice story to share about finally getting some merch, and she'll explain around the difficulties with that.
And that's right. Lost Alone is back. Happiness. Dog days are over. My favorite band with My Chemical Romance, along with My Chemical Romance, they divide the same space in my heart. Lost Alone is back. But Brazil, what was? Brazil was back? Brazil was back. No, Brazil wasn't back. Brazil was back in time, actually. We had some messy moments, politically speaking. Like, we had kind of a Donald Trump, a personal Donald Trump for us, but like worse than Trump. So the dollar, the euro, and the pounds, Libra, have become very expensive here in Brazil. Like, they convert to Brazilian real, the Brazilian coin. I was unable to import CDs from Europe. I simply couldn't buy my The War 20s as soon as it was released. I was really sad, but the story would ever ship here. Like, I was willing to pay whatever the price would be, but eBay and the official store, no one was shipping to Brazil. No story. Amazon, no story was sending to Brazil, shipping to Brazil. So I work as a nanny, a babysitter, and the father of the children I take care, he had a business trip to England, and he works in the oil and gas industry and had this trip and asked me if I wanted anything from there. And he was going to buy legal for his son and Peppa plushies for his children and perfumes for his wife. And he asked me what I wanted. So I asked if he could try to receive a package from a band website in the hotel. And he said he will try. So I sent a DM to the Lost Alone account on Twitter asking how long the package would take, because my boss would only be there for like 4 days, just 4 days. They asked me the address, not knowing that they would send it like for free. But my boss didn't understand what I said. The band offered to send the CD for free. My boss didn't understand. I told him this, and my boss went and bought the CD. Like, Lost Alone simply sent the vinyl of the War in 20s, the vinyl, like, I was asking for the CD, and they sent the vinyl and the t-shirt, the Zodiac one, the t-shirt. I always wanted that t-shirt. They sent me as a surprise, and my boss then threw a cold water on me, saying that there was no way to put a vinyl in this suitcase. His suitcase was one of those, how say, he was a flimsy, like made of cloth. It was the hard ones, like was a suitcase made of cloth, just cloth. Like the vinyl would break inside. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I told the band about it and asked how I could return, how my boss could return the vinyl to them. And the band was, I believe Steven was waiting at the time, because he was like, oh, donate the vinyl to someone who liked rock music in the hotel. Like, this is a very Steven Battel statement. And I told this to my boss about it, and he said, I'm not gonna do that. Everyone here is weird and kind of mean. His words. And then my boss was like, I'll take a chance. If it breaks, you can frame it and keep it as a souvenir. I don't know. But everything worked out. The vinyl arrived in perfect condition. So beautiful, so red, amazing. Amazing. This band is unbelievable. Like, I have no words to express this. Like, they sent me for free. Like, I would pay, and I had the CD. My boss bought the CD and gave it to me. I have the CD and the vinyl. But now I need a record player, a turntable, to listen to it. The old one of mine broke some years ago, but I'll get that later this year. I promise. I'm gonna listen to the Roaring Twenties on vinyl. The CD I already listened to. I still need to. I still have a boombox to listen to CDs. I love to listen to CDs. That's it. Thanks back for remember me for this podcast, Becky and Simaris. I think I summed it up. Like, there is so many memories, there's so many moments. I mean, I didn't even talk about the fact that I had a website, lostalonepierre.com, the forum, so many things to speak, but I could have said like a lot of things, but it would take us hours. So, I mean, I talked to 30 minutes. Oh my God, 30 minutes. 30 minutes talking. Too much. I talked too much, Beck. I'm sorry. You can cut whatever you want.
Don't worry, I haven't cut anything that you have sent me, Cami. Everything you have shared has been really wonderful, and the first time you sent me your video with the edit and I listened to it for the first time, I think it was the first time actually we'd had a conversation via voice. All our conversations had been via message anyway. And it genuinely made me smile and laugh throughout. And I could have happily had another half an hour or hours worth of content from you, and it all would have been added in. And I think we've already agreed as well that there is definitely scope for another at least 1 to 2 episodes of stories that we can both share together. One of the things that I wanted to share as a memory between us and Lost Alone was we were very on it with the Shapes of Screams anniversaries. That album meant so much to both of us, and I think tied with wanting everyone and more people to love the album as well. We really worked hard to try and celebrate it as best as we could. Some of you listening may actually remember that in 2015, so Shapes of Scream's first birthday, a bunch of us created a video to celebrate Shapes of Screams. I'll play a little clip of it now. the fact that so many people wanted to get involved, and we're talking 10 years ago where video editing wasn't as, I suppose, easy as it is now. It was such a fun project to put together, and it was from fans all over the world. And we were super proud of that project because I remember it must have been really late at night, but I was saying to Cami, I really need some kind of art for this particular part of this song to match with the song, the piano that I'm playing. Is there anything you can do? And just between us, we wrote on our walls, we lit things on fire, we cut out so many bits of paper, we drew so many things. It was just such fun and such a treasured memory. And to try and coordinate that with somebody the other side of the world is just amazing. Just, if it wasn't for Lost Alone, I never would have done this. And then it was obviously 10 years of Shapes of Screams last year. I knew that the coordination for a big video project wasn't probably going to be as feasible. I reached out to Cami and I said, hey, do you fancy trying something? What should we do? It'll be fun to do something together. And you may have seen this incredible stop motion video that Cami did. I was hoping that she was going to mention it, but it's probably in the hours and hours of content that she could have talked about. But again, I'll just share a little clip here. Like, it's just the coolest thing. You know, we shared lots and lots of things of Shapes of Screams and what it meant to us and all the memories from our point of view anyway. I always feel a bit bad because the hashtag we used was different to what the hashtag was used by the band, so it was a great job there. But it was fun to do, and I joke but not joke that we should keep doing this every 10 years, a big project, even when we're in our 50s and 60s, still loading up our PCs and doing something creative. I will leave you with Cami's final words for the podcast.
I hope you guys like my testimonial about this band. Congratulations about the podcast. Like, this band mean the world to me. They deserve all kinds of media praising their brilliant work. Like, this band is perfect since day one, since the debut record. And the last record is amazing. I was even talking with my friend the other day that there's some artists that we keep listening to because we like the artist, even though the last album, the last releases is not as good as the first ones, you know, but we keep listening because we like the artist. And we get like, oh, but the last album is not that great, but it's still better than a lot of things in music nowadays. We kind of think like that, you know. Like, the artist is still brilliant. It's okay, I'm gonna listen to Lost Alone. I don't feel that with Lost Alone. I mean, if I knew Lost Alone for the first time with Shapes of Screams, I would be impacted as well. You know, I would listen to Hostage or Apathy. Thanks, Alan, to keep Apathy in the record. Like, Alan insisted Apathy to be in the record. I think I remember that history. I would be Lost Alone would blow my mind in the same way, you know. If I knew Lost Alone in the early 20s, I would be like, over under you spell, what a freaking good song. Toy Ghosts. Time go fast when you're having fun. Last Drop of Forever and During the Dream. Like, just bops. I Don't Need a Rocket is amazing as well. I would be mesmerized the same way. I love every Lost Alone era, you know. They're amazing. They're amazing. I love them so much. That's it. Greetings from Brazil. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, Cami, for taking the time to share all your wonderful memories of Lost Alone, and for saving me hours of editing by putting all the editing together yourself. So everything you've seen from Cami, she has not only recorded it but has edited everything together, which is amazing. It has been genuinely lovely to do this with you, and I hope everyone listening has had a lovely time and maybe learnt something new and enjoyed our reminisce again about Lost Alone. So please reach out if you'd like to join me for an episode. But in true breakfast pudding podcast style, I should end there with what's for breakfast pudding.